Hello and welcome to Salute Your Sports. Kamen Entchev here with Tom Casselman, ready for a big show today, Tom. Couple of massive NFL games this week. 49ers, Ravens, the top two seeds in their conferences. Dallas and Miami, both still alive for top seeds, playoff positioning. Both don't have too many signature wins. That'll be a good one. Plus, we take a look at Buffalo, the Bills' impressive win versus Dallas. Obviously, their close win against the Chiefs. The week before that, is Buffalo back? Are they for real? Are they going to make the playoffs? Are they the team to maybe beat that is on the bubble there? And if not Buffalo, who is a dangerous team here? We're winding down to the season. What is a team or two that you just don't want to face? The Bills are the obvious answer. I've got another answer that I think is also pretty good, Tom. We'll have our betting locks of the week, maybe sports trivia statements of the week. I can't wait to get started, Tom. You're already very festive. I was going to say, I'm guessing you're doing pretty good with that festive hat you got on over there, Mr. You know what they call me at work? Common Claus this time of year. But this is Casselman Claus over there with the Santa hat.
Yeah, no, doing fantastic. Definitely glad to be back after a necessary bye week. Got hit with bronchitis for the first time in my life, but I am sounding and feeling much, much better now, as are the San Francisco 49ers, who find themselves atop the NFC, find themselves in control for getting that very precious number one seed in the playoffs. Another team that's in the number one spot right now on the AFC side is the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of folks are saying, this is a nice narrative of a Super Bowl preview. Lamar Jackson not having any of that talk. Super Bowl's in February, he says. This is December. A lot of football to play, and a lot of things can change between now and then. But this will be in California. Ravens will be on the road. They find themselves as 5-point underdogs despite having the same record. But looking at how the 49ers have been playing, Kamen, this feels like a pretty appropriate line, and I might be
100%.
liking if any team at this point in the NFL could beat the 49ers. I would probably say I trust the Ravens more than anybody else. But to be honest with you, I think this is a cover for the Baltimore Ravens. I think it's going to be a really, really close game. I don't see them getting blown out or losing by more than a field goal, for example, because they're so good on both sides of the ball. You look at the DVOA, one of my favorite.
Your favorite, Mr. DVOA over there.
Number one in the NFL, San Francisco. Number two is Baltimore. And then there's a pretty significant drop between total DVOA percentage, 38.8 for Baltimore. And then Buffalo's actually third in DVOA at 24.7. So it feels like to me, 49ers are they're clearly the best team in the NFL right now. Is there any way in your mind that Baltimore goes and wins this game on the road, or do you think that the 49ers have this one pretty handily at home?
Yeah, there's two things that I can think of that would point to Baltimore winning. The rest is all San Fran. I'll hit on the ones that maybe if you're if you're Baltimore, what is going your way? Well, one is that Lamar Jackson has one loss against the NFC, and, he's a fast, shifty quarterback. You can't really scheme for that on tape. So that is something that could be a problem for San Francisco. But I would also say that their defense is really, really good. Yeah, they haven't seen Lamar in person. Lamar also hasn't seen them in person either. So I almost feel like that almost evens out to me. The other argument would be, I know this is really, in the grand scheme of things, pointless to this, but there's a streak on the primetime Monday night games where the underdog has won like 6 or 7 straight. I don't know if it was the Monday night or the primetime games, but the underdogs are doing work lately on these primetime games. But I'm going to say this one is going to be all San Francisco. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to cover. I think it's going to be a pretty comfortable win for the 49ers personally. I think, like you said, it's a matchup of two of the best teams, the top two records, the top two scoring defenses. And then we have the third highest scoring offense in San Francisco and the fourth highest scoring in Baltimore. So San Fran, by the way, is 5-1 at home. And then you have the Ravens, who are 6-1 on the road, just clobber the Jaguars. So I think, to me, the biggest difference between these two teams is the explosive passing game. And the 49ers passing game is far more explosive. I know there was all this talk about Lamar Jackson and these receivers he's getting. I know Mark Andrews hasn't been healthy, which is another reason to pick San Fran because Mark Andrews is not playing in this game. But Zay Flowers has been good. OBJ's been okay. I mean, I think they haven't really lived up to the hype for me. I go Andrews, again, getting hurt is part of that, but he's not in this game. So it's actually a very similar Baltimore team that we've seen over the last few years. The main difference from them getting better this year is that their defense is back to the Baltimore way, whereas their offense is pretty much the same thing. They're great at running the ball. Lamar makes improv plays. He doesn't really turn the ball over, but he also isn't really going to, throw for 300 yards in the game. That's just not who he is, at least not with the current team that he has. And I look at San Francisco, Brock Purdy, who, by the way, is second in the NFL in passing yards, first in passing touchdowns, first in passer rating. He's our first or second. He's up there in every stat, either 1 or 2 in the NFL. He's got Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, McCaffrey catches the ball. So, we could sit here and argue about Brock. Is he the real deal? Is he not? I know I lean more towards yes. You lean more towards no. And by real deal, I mean like top 5, 10 quarterback easily.
Yeah.
No question. Because I definitely think that there is probably only a handful of quarterbacks that can do what he's doing right now with that 49ers team, whereas some people think that half the quarterbacks can. But that's another debate, neither here nor there. But if you look at what they're doing statistically, whether it's Brock Purdy, whether it's Shanahan, whether it's Debo, whether it's Ayuk, whether it's McCaffrey, Kittle, Trent Williams on the O-line, whoever you want to give the credit to, it simply works. It simply works in San Francisco. They are second in the NFL in passing yards per game. Meanwhile, the Ravens are 20th in passing yards per game. I don't think Baltimore can hang with the 49ers. San Fran, by the way, has won 6 straight games, all of them by at least 12 points. So they're not only winning, they're clobbering teams. I mean, they're beating good NFL football teams by 3, 4 touchdowns. They had that little brief, bad run at one point in the season, but they are back. They are back in a big way. So defenses are close. Running games are close. But I think for me, it's the passing game for San Francisco that is just the far better side in this game. So I think San Francisco is going to win. I think it's going to be comfortable, Tom. Now, I am wary of the backdoor cover. Obviously, that's a dangerous thing. But the Ravens don't play the best in the fourth quarter, which is part of their problem. I think this is going to be 7 to 10 point game, maybe even more. I don't think this game will be in question, I guess, is my take. Maybe I'm disrespecting the Ravens. Maybe they'll come after me. But, man, San Francisco, I'm a Chiefs fan. I love Mahomes. I think Mahomes is great. I think the Chiefs can always be dangerous. But the fact that I am so bought into San Francisco that I'm not even picking them. I'm not picking the Chiefs to beat the Niners at this point. So I think San Fran is the best team in the game. At home, they'll win by more than a touchdown. Give me the Niners in a rout.
It's close. I'm going to go with Baltimore in this one, and I think it's going to
win
be
outright.
To win outright, and I think it's going to be a really, really gritty game. I mean, it's going to be fun to watch because there's so much talent on the field. But the number one way of keeping the other team from putting up points is by controlling the ball, by playing complementary football. And the Ravens are one of the best teams in the NFL at doing that sort of thing. I mean, Lamar Jackson, he's known for his speed, for his big home run plays that he can go out there and run. But what have we seen a lot from Lamar this season? He's kind of running at like 80% speed, picking up the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yards, and then making sure he gets down, avoiding big hits. And even though Keaton Mitchell's out, that was a pretty significant part of the run game. They still have Gus Edwards, Justice Hill. They elevated, what's left of Melvin Gordon the third to their main roster. I think they're going to be able to run and move the ball enough on offense. You mentioned Mark Andrews being out. Isaiah Likely has been playing fantastic at the tight end position.
He had that
for the
insane
Ravens.
catch that last game.
he's been really really incredible for them, being what really emerging as, I wouldn't say a top tight end, but a really useful weapon to have in this offense. I think there's going to be a relatively low amount of possessions for both teams because the Ravens are going to try to control the ball on this one. They are used to going up against high-powered teams like the Joe Burrow Bengals, where they're replete with weapons. They have so many ways that they can hurt you. But the Ravens are going to try to limit the number of possessions and keep themselves in the game so that it's at the very least close. I think they'll be able to do just enough to eke out a victory in this one, but it's certainly not going to be an easy task in the slightest.
Yeah, I'll just say one last thing. I know
Mm.
usually like what you're saying makes a lot of sense, but I don't necessarily want my team facing that Niners defense forever either, because
Mhm.
the longer, the more possessions, the more Nick Bosa can eat on sacks. Chase Young, Fred Warner is a tackle machine, one scary dude. You let those guys get to your team, you give them enough chances to hit your team, the hits add up at the end of the game. A lot of NFL teams will tell you that. San Francisco,
Mhm.
if they were just an okay defense,
No,
100%,
they are
everything
really
you're
good.
saying makes sense. Their defense is, one of the very, very best, if not the best in all of football.
Mhm.
So it's not going to be, I know what you're saying makes sense. They're good at running the ball. It's going to be a lot harder to do that against this specific San Francisco team with the big guys up front. Fred Warner in that middle linebacker spot calling the shots.
Mhm.
He's tough. So that formula may work against a lot of teams. I don't think it's going to work. And you mentioned the Lamar getting 6-7 yards. The one way the Ravens are going to win this game is if Lamar doesn't go down. If he
Mhm.
does go for those runs, if he is running 100%, that's their only chance they have. So I know they want him to be healthy, but this may be a game where they got to unleash the beast, I
Hmm.
guess. But
We'll see.
even with that said, I don't think it's going to be enough against San Francisco.
Yeah, another high-powered game that we're going to be seeing, and really great that with the Christmas holiday coming up, as much as it feels a little bit sad that players and especially stadium workers are going to be working on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. We, the fans at home, do get plenty of entertainment, especially with a matchup like Miami and Dallas, two teams that have kind of carried the knock throughout the season of not being great against top competition. Looking at the strength of victory, you've got Dallas at about 38%, 0.379 strength of victory. The Miami Dolphins, I believe, have the second lowest strength of victory in the NFL at 0.321. So that's not necessarily great, but they are, for the most part, beating the teams that they should beat,
Other
but
than Tennessee.
haven't really taken that step against the teams that are really at the top of the conference or that are considered to be really good teams. So, Kamen, what do you like in this matchup? Definitely seems like there's going to be plenty of offense as Miami is third overall in DVOA, Dallas is ninth in overall DVOA for offensive efficiency.
Well, DVOA, this, DVOA, that. Miami is first in yards. They're first in points.
That works too.
So, you can throw out the DVOA all you want, Tom. Miami is the best offense in football. And I think a lot of people don't realize how good they are running the ball. They're
Hmm.
first in the NFL in passing yards. They're fourth in the NFL in rushing yards. Tyreek Hill, we'll see if he plays. I know they're saying he's probably going to play. It is to the point where if he plays versus he doesn't play, that might be the difference maker for me as to who wins the game. So I would say I would lean Miami if he plays, lean Miami or lean Dallas if he doesn't play. But I'm gonna assume he plays, and I could actually see Miami still winning, in even if he doesn't play, because a lot of times when you think of the Dolphins, it's all about how do you stop Tyreek Hill, how do you stop Jalen Waddle, that passing game. Well, Mostert, I always butcher this guy's name, A-Chain. Hopefully I said that right. I've heard his
A-Chan.
A-Chan. I've heard it pronounced A-Chain, At-Chan.
It was
That's
A-Chain until he had like his first really, really big
and
game
then
in the
everyone
NFL.
calls him
Then he changed it to A-Chan. Yeah.
A-Chan. Well, that backfield is really, really good. Dallas is a whole different team at home and on the road. All of their losses have come on the road this season. They're not a very good road team. They're undefeated at home, but Miami's also really good at home, by the way. 6-1 at home. I think they're going to watch the tape. I'm not saying that Dallas isn't going to make adjustments, but the Bills just put up 266 rushing yards on the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas is 19th against the run. Miami is 4th running the ball. Mike McDaniel is one of the best play callers in the game, if not the best right now. He's going to dial up a great offense. They're going to give a lot of Mostert. They're going to run the ball a lot. They're going to be very successful. And I think Dallas is going to have a hard time stopping the run. It's a better matchup for Miami. They're at home in this one. They have such a great team. And Dallas's secondary has been very good, but they have shown moments of getting beat. I know they've gotten a lot of pick sixes. Bland, that's his game. But I think stopping Tyreek is a whole different story. Even Jalen Waddle. If this game was in Dallas, I might pick Dallas, but this is in Miami. Honestly, if this was a neutral field, Tom, I would probably pick Miami. I know they haven't beaten really good teams yet, but then again, like I could argue with you, it's been a small sample size. They have three losses against the really good teams, 2 losses. I mean, what's a sample size? They're eventually going to break through, and I think they're the more explosive team in this game. I do like Dak a lot. I like CD Lamb a lot. I like Jalen Waddle better than Dallas's number 2. I like the Dolphins running backs better. And that Dolphin defense, what did I tell you, Tom? They will come alive. Vic Fangio, give them some time to prep those guys. Jalen Ramsey is healthy. Miami's defense has been, for the most part, really, really good the last 5 weeks, the last 6 weeks. I know the Tennessee game was a little bit of a blip, but other than that game, they've been pretty much completely stout on defense. I know it was the Jets, but if you don't give up any points in the NFL, you're doing pretty well. So I'm less confident in this one than the Niners game, but I am going to pick Miami to take out Dallas in Miami, where Dallas they gotta win a road game at some point, Tom, against a good team before I'm going to buy in on the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the perfect spot to get a road victory against a good team. I'm going to go with Dallas in this one, or we're going to be opposite each other once
Contrarian.
again. It really feels like, and we'll get to this in another segment, but that the Buffalo Bills, since their bye week, they've flipped a switch of some kind, and they've absolutely blitzed and just, I think, taken by storm their next couple of opponents. I think that this was more of a blip for the Dallas Cowboys. This most recent loss in Buffalo, just absolutely getting shell-shocked by that running attack, and really not putting up a touchdown until the very end of the game when, quite frankly, it didn't matter. It was 31-3 at that point. But, Buffalo is really good when they're firing on all cylinders, really good on both sides of the ball. I know you mentioned Miami, that they've been putting up better numbers on defense, but let's see, 13 to the Raiders, 13 to the Jets, 15 to the Commanders, gave up 28 to the Titans, and then 0 to the Jets. To me, that's just not very impressive competition against whom they're doing that. So I think
Raiders
that
are okay.
they are
They're up and
playing
down.
better.
They put up 63. The Commanders are actually pretty decent
them.
on off. The Commanders are pretty decent on offense, Tom. They're a very respectable offensive team.
My viewpoint is that yes, Miami is playing better, but not to that impressive of an extent. Not enough to the point that I would look at, Dallas's offense compared to all those other offenses and say, yeah, Dallas is probably right in line with that. I think Dallas is a better offense than those teams that I just mentioned. So I still like them being able to move the ball against Miami. It's going to be really, really key how they make adjustments for their run defense. I think that's the biggest key in the game. Of course, outside Tyreek Hill. And when you mention Tyreek Hill being the difference between who you're picking, that kind of sounds like MVP worthy to me when an outcome can come down to a single player being healthy or injured.
No respect, Vegas and voters. No respect. RESPECT.
Once Cooper Kupp didn't get it, Tyreek's not going to get it either. Which, I mean, as far as like a personal thing, I'm not all that busted up about it. But I like Dallas a little bit better in this game. You mentioned play calling. I mean, I know it's going to sound like a point that would go toward Miami, but I would say, Mike McDaniel is a better play caller than Mike McCarthy right now. I also put Kyle Shanahan on that list. But I mean, for the most part, McCarthy is calling a really, really good
He's
game
doing great
this season, really accentuating the positive of Dak's game. And it's taken a bit of time, but incorporating a little bit more of that second and third tertiary passing aspect. Jake Ferguson going up the seam, Brandon Cooks is
He's
putting
been
together
good,
a
the
couple
tight
of
end.
good games. So, I mean, I'm going to go Dallas in this one. It's certainly a lot closer of a line. I believe it's only a 1 point spread, so more or less a toss up in this one. But I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys on the road to pick up a victory. Going to be really key, not just for playoff
Love it.
positioning, but perhaps winning the division as well, because the Eagles certainly have not been looking like their usual selves.
I
We
love
talked
it,
about
Tom.
the
Love it. The
Buffalo Bills.
differences. Let's go.
I mean, we might be. I mean, we might have some differences. I feel like you and I will fall along similar lines to this one with the Buffalo Bills, as they did, as we mentioned, dominate the Cowboys 31-10. I think the answer to the question that you posed here, has Buffalo figured something out in the last 2 weeks, is yes. Coming off of a bye week, coming off of some internal self scouting, tends to do that for a lot of teams. And it's just the way that the schedule breaks out this season, that a lot of teams had late bye weeks. Buffalo Bills feel like they've taken full advantage of it. So, I mean, do you think that they've figured something out and they've had kind of like a mid-season dip? And then the bigger question is, do we trust them to make the playoffs? Do we trust them to contend for a Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, the Super Bowl part is a loaded question because even when Buffalo was playing more consistent ball the last few years, and a lot of people will point to Josh Allen, but if you look at the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs, their defense, which has been for the most part really good in the regular season, it completely leaves in the playoffs. I don't know what it is with their defense, but they are like a great regular season defense and terrible in the postseason. Maybe it's the great offense beating the great defense. Kansas City, Cincinnati have certainly feasted on Buffalo's defense in past playoffs. But at least at the current moment, they've absolutely figured something out. Joe Brady, the new offensive coordinator, it almost feels like in some ways, even though the records don't show it, in some ways, Kansas City and Buffalo in particular are actually better, more well-rounded teams, which is scary to think about. They've got the weaknesses, sure. Kansas City with the drop passes, but their defense is much better. Buffalo specifically, who we're talking about here, they figured out this run game, and they actually had it earlier this season too, but it was about committing to it. The fact that they can win a game where Josh Allen throws for less than 100 yards, he has less than 10 completed passes. You and I, you especially, Tom, a lot of people talk about this. You're not the only one, but you have talked about this ad nauseum on the show. The Buffalo Bills ask Josh Allen to do too much. There was always asking him to be Superman. And quite frankly, there is times where you have to ask a guy like that to be Superman. But sometimes he needs a little bit of a mental and a physical break. And James Cook has done that for him this year. James Cook is top 3 in the NFL in rushing yards. I think he might be second or third. I think he's second, Tom. You may look that up right now. I think he's second in the league in rush yards behind McCaffrey. I think it's McCaffrey, Cook, and Mostert, or it's Mostert and Cook. But he's been really, really good. And they kind of had that balance here and there earlier this season. Now they've said that, look, if Cook has it going this week, we can go to him. Just under 200 yards rushing this last game, more than 200 as a team. That makes the Buffalo Bills very, very dangerous. 179 for Cook, 266 as a team. Their defense also has come together. Only 17 points against the Chiefs, only 10 against Dallas. And they showed me two different things. Because for them, they've had a lot of blowouts. I think the Kansas City game was as important as the Dallas game in them winning a close game on the road against a good team. Kadarius Toney blew it. I know that was bad, but they still won the game. So they did win a close game in Kansas City. They proved they can win a close game. Josh Allen didn't have a turnover this last game. That is progress, no doubt. Definitely progress. They got a balanced offense, very strong defense. Their defense is fourth scoring in the NFL. So it does seem like Buffalo's figured it out. I know Dallas is an up and down team. I know Kansas City, quite frankly, has been up and down. Or for them to win on the road in Kansas City and to obliterate Dallas, I mean, it shows you that if they're playing their best, they might be able to beat just about any team in the NFL. Maybe not the Niners, but who knows? Get a couple turnovers to go your way. Buffalo at their best is certainly a top 2-3 team in the NFL. I mean, look, if the Niners do what they do, if the Bills do what they do, if the Chiefs actually catch the ball, those are my top 3 teams in the NFL at their peak. I think the Eagles are good, but there's something not right, Tom. We've been waiting for them to figure it out. Instead, it's been the opposite. They've kind of self-imploded. So, yeah, Buffalo's going to make the playoffs. I know they lost to the Patriots earlier this year, but they're not losing twice to the Patriots. They're going to beat the Chargers. That last game against the Dolphins could go either way, but honestly, at that point, they might already be in. And I don't want to face Buffalo if they're the 7 seed, the 6 seed. That's a very, very dangerous team. But I'm not ready to pick them to make the Super Bowl, though, because I still don't know if they could put together, because now they're putting this whole long stretch of games in a row. Can they do 4 in a row in the playoff setting? I've never seen them do that personally. So I would say they're definitely going to make the playoffs. They're probably one of my 5 biggest contenders, but they are not yet my AFC favorite, nor are they my Super Bowl favorite. I got to stick with my preseason pick, Tom. Chiefs and Niners. I like Miami to make the AFC title game, and I still like Philadelphia. They get probably the 2 seed to make the conference title game. So I'm going to stick with all the picks they made this preseason. The only one that I might change is that I might pick the Niners to beat the Chiefs. But then again, when it comes to Super Bowl week and you give Andy Reid 2 weeks, maybe I'll flip-flop on that one. We'll see. So
Yeah.
I like what Buffalo's doing. They've
Mhm.
committed to the run game. They've definitely made some changes. They're limiting mistakes. But I'm still not 100% sold yet as far as winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And this is where I thought we would be right in line where we agree. They have figured something out since the bye week. We agree they are definitely going to be playoff bound. They look kind of dicey, but they've come out and like you said, they've beaten 2 teams that looked like really, really tough matchups on paper coming out of that bye week and being a really crucial time. Because imagine if they just drop even one of those 7-7. Certainly a lot more difficult of a prospect, but it's the fact that they won and that the way that they've won really is a standout. And just looking at what they have done this season, is clear to see this is a playoff worthy team. This is a dangerous team that nobody's going to want to face when it comes time for January and February to roll around, because they have beaten the Cowboys, they have beaten the Chiefs on the road. They've also had. Yeah, they beat Miami as well by a significant margin. They'll have, of course, a nice rematch in Miami at the end of the season to kind of settle that once and forever. Perhaps it's going to be the difference between who wins the division.
Miami's still 2 ahead, Tom.
Miami, well, but I mean, if they lose to Dallas and let's say I don't have Miami scheduled pulled up, but there, it could matter.
I'm guessing that Miami has the division tiebreaker because I know the Bills lost to the Jets too. Because if it goes head to head, then it goes division.
I don't know if it would be head to head then. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Bills have no chance in the division because I think they're 2 back. But I'll pull it up right now. But I think they got to finish a game ahead of Miami. If they finish tied, I think they might be. Let me look it up just real quick because I'm out of curiosity.
So
Miami's 4-1 in the division. Buffalo's 2-2. Miami's 7-3 in conference. Buffalo 4-5. I mean, Buffalo is not getting the tiebreakers. So I think
Miami's got done. Dallas, Baltimore, and Buffalo coming up. So they certainly have a tough
3 games left. They got to lose out. Buffalo has to win out.
They very well could. That's outside the realm of possibility.
But
right. My trust for Buffalo basically stops at being a Super Bowl contender. That's something where basically they got to make it to the conference championship for me to say, okay, yes, it's a contending team, literally, because if they win, they're going to the Super Bowl. They've just been too mercurial. I mean, we mentioned the good wins. They've also had some pretty bad losses. I mean,
2
dropping
and
a
4
game,
on the road
New
too, by the
England.
way.
Yeah, I mean, they
They're gonna
like
have to
that's
win a
one of
lot
the
of
good
road
things.
playoff games.
Yeah, that they'd have to like. There are some merits either way, but having like a bad loss to, I mean, it's an ascending Broncos team, a dinged up Bengals team with a loss, losing to Philadelphia the way that they did. Although they played Philadelphia really, really well, and by all rights probably should have won that game. I mean, I'll stop just short of saying Super Bowl contender, but I mean, I kind of had them in that category preseason, and the way that they're playing, I'm not that far away from saying that they'll be able to get back to that status. So outcome this weekend, I mean, not going to really matter all that much as far as the narrative goes because it's a very banged up LA Chargers team. But a lot of other teams on the playoff bubble, we're going to take the Bills out of this discussion because they're widely heralded as the dangerous playoff team, lower seeded team that nobody wants to face. But I think for the purpose of bubble conversation, we're obviously going to be removing the conference leaders with San Francisco, Dallas, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Miami, teams that are firmly in the playoffs. I would even
Kansas
say
City,
Kansas City is firmly in the
Kansas
playoffs
City,
because they've got they got a
Kansas
2 game
City.
lead on Denver, so they're not even close to being in the bubble. I'm on the fence about including the Browns because they have a solid grip on a wild card spot with a 9-5 record, but they could find. I guess we could call them a bubble team if
You
you
could
wanted
put them in the
to.
bubble for the sake of this
And of course,
discussion. The
there
Fighting
is just
Flaccos.
there's just a big glut of 7-7 and 6-8 teams in the NFC. So, Kamen, do you have outside of the Buffalo Bills a particularly dangerous team that nobody's really going to want to face come playoff time?
Yeah, real quick, one thought. We were talking about, Mike McCarthy doing good. I just meant to, I didn't want to cut you off, and it's still in my head. Kellen Moore with the Chargers has been a failure as OC. He was a failure in Dallas. So not a good look for Kellen Moore. I know a lot of factors go into that, but at the current moment, things are not looking up for Mr. Kellen Moore. But as far as a contender, yeah, I've got one for you. I think it's a team that nobody is talking about, and they ought to be. That is the Los Angeles Rams. They're 2 years removed from winning the Super Bowl. I know they lost Jalen Ramsey. I know Aaron Donald's not the force he was. I know their defense is not what it used to be. But if I look at their offense, it might be better. I know the stats may not show it now, but the way they played lately, they got Puka Nacua having a historic rookie season. Cooper Kupp is back-to-back games of over 100 receiving yards. Matthew Stafford is finally healthy, and Kyron Williams is great in the backfield. We're talking about best play callers. We just didn't even mention McVay in the discussion at all. So the Rams are 7-7. They're a team that won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, like I said. They're going to take on the Saints tonight, and I almost put this in betting locks of the week. It was my fourth one out, but Rams -4 seems like a really, really good play. By the way, the Rams, Tom, they've won, I think it's 5 of the last 6 games, I believe they've won, and their only loss was
4 of the last 5, if you wanted to sound even better.
4 of, what did I say, 5 of 6 or 4 of 5?
4 of 6.
4 of 6, but 4 of 5. So I got it written down here. Let me pull it up because it is 4 of 5. You're right. 3 of them were blowout wins, just annihilated opposition. The Commanders game was a blowout win. They got, points late in the game. So essentially, their last 4 wins, they've just dominated throughout the whole game.
And they looked pretty good against Baltimore on the road.
They were there on the cusp. Punt return, touchdown, tough play. Their only loss on the road against Baltimore. So, yeah, I mean, it's a team that has a lot of the best players, a lot of the same pieces that won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They know how to win in the playoffs, and they have a really good offense. And I'll say one thing about them in San Francisco. They've played San Francisco pretty well over the years. Obviously, I'm picking the Niners to win the whole thing, but I'm looking at them and all the other NFC teams, and the only one that I'm looking at that I could say is clearly better San Francisco, but the Rams have that advantage of knowing San Francisco, knowing how to play them, which makes it tougher to beat a team that you know really, really well. I do think Dallas is probably better than them. I mean, would I pick Philly over them? Maybe. I might lean Rams over the Lions. I just don't trust the Lions personally, Tom. But definitely, I think the Rams are a team that we shouldn't sleep on. I think they'll get in the playoffs and they might make some noise. I know matchups are big, so I don't want to say I guarantee they'll win wild card weekend. But my hunch, if they get the right matchup, if they get the right situation, that could be a team that wins one playoff game, maybe
Mhm.
two. It wouldn't shock me if they made a run. It's a team that's made a run very, very recently. I mean, it's actually even the year with golf, they were in the Super Bowl also not that long ago. They're one of those teams where they're kind of like the Boston Red Sox in baseball. They're really good one year, then they're really bad. Then they're back to being really good. But the NFL is wide open. I know we've labeled the Niners as the team to beat, and rightfully so. But San Francisco's had a lot of injuries. They are one or two injuries away from being very vulnerable. NFL has more parity than ever before, Tom. So who's to say the Rams can't make a run? That's my team that I'm personally looking at.
Mhm.
Dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, that's the team that I had circled as well because of how healthy they've been as of late, how well they've been playing. And I think the playoff picture, the odds have them around 54% chance to make the playoffs. I think that'll go up if they are, in fact, able to win over the New Orleans Saints,
Well,
another
they have the
team on the
Giants
bubble.
next week, too. I
They
know the
got the
Niners
Giants
the
next
last
week, and then they
week,
close
but
out. Yeah. So, I mean, I
yeah.
think 9-8, that's a pretty good chance of making it into the playoffs, especially because currently they're in the picture and they have a couple different tiebreakers over teams like the Seahawks, the Saints that are kind of in that glom there with them. So I agree with you 100%. The Rams are my pick as well. A couple other teams to kind of keep an eye out on. Let's see if the 49ers have figured, or not the 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks have figured something out. Certainly got to win against a less than optimal Eagles team. I'm not really sure how much significance to put on that win outside of the
Drew
fact that they
Lock,
just kind
Drew
of
Lock,
gutted it through and got that win.
MIZZOU. It's Lock, baby.
Well,
Believe
well,
in
it's
Drew.
well, it's going to be Geno Smith coming back this week as
We
they are
want
on the.
Drew. We want Drew.
By the way, that was a phenomenal post game interview that he and Lisa
Yes.
Salter did together. That was,
I've probably interviewed him more than any other
yeah.
athlete in my journalistic career. Every single week with the backpack.
Hmm.
Drew Lock is a guy that is very, very genuine. The coach speak, the players speak. About 80% of athletes are trained on it and they will zone in. Drew
Hmm.
Lock is real. So
Yes.
that was great.
Yeah, that's absolutely crucial. I mean, the Seahawks, I think in large picture, if they're able to figure some things out, they're able to get healthy with their run game between Murray and Charbonnet, their passing game with
Kenneth
Geno Smith coming
Walker.
back. Kenneth Walker, what did I say? I said Murray?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm thinking Murray.
Yeah.
Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. If they're able to get that run game healthy and Geno Smith comes back and he gets rounded into form, they've got three very
Or
winnable games with
or
the
Drew
Titans,
Drew keeps locking in,
or
baby.
maybe Drew keeps locking in.
Yeah.
The Seahawks. I mean, they've been swept by the 49ers, lost to the Cowboys, Rams, and Ravens. So I think that they're clearly a tier below. But if they end up in that spot where they're facing the winner of the NFC South, that could be a bit of a dangerous team once they get a little bit of momentum behind them. Speaking of Super Bowl experience, you got Pete Carroll at coach, and then maybe a little bit. I know the Packers have dropped the past couple of games. Maybe they could be a little bit dangerous of a team if they're able to get healthy come playoff time, get Christian Watson back, have Aaron
I
Jones,
I
AJ Dillon,
I
full
think it's
complement.
the Vikings, Tom. They've had so many close losses. I know they had all the close wins last
Yeah,
year, but I mean their quarterback spot is a big question mark. But
exactly.
Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, that defense has improved. If Kirk Cousins does come back next year, or they get a massive upgrade to that QB spot,
Hmm.
I'm picking Minnesota in the NFC North next year. I just know the quarterback spot is a big, big question mark, but I
Yeah.
actually would pick Minnesota personally. And I got to throw out
Mhm.
the Browns because why not? They are a bubble team. They're not a shoe
Sure.
in. The Browns have all their team injured. It makes no sense that there should be this good. There's so many games they should have lost, like the Bears game. Darnell
Hmm.
Mooney can't catch the ball. They can't hold on to a lead for their lives. But the Browns, because why not?
Yeah, I mean, their defense certainly has been playing outstanding, and they've figured out enough stuff to win. I mean, they've got a banged up Texans team on the road, then they're hosting the Jets, and then they're against the Bengals, and we'll have to see to what extent Jamar Chase is injured for the season.
Oh, there's your
As he's
other
going to be.
one.
What's
Jake
up?
Browning, the next Tom Brady, instead
Yeah,
of Joe Burrow, Burrows, Bledsoe,
Vikings
Browning's
never should have cut
Brady.
him or something like that. So
He's
certainly a
good.
couple dangerous teams, but I think the one by far and away that is the most dangerous, of course, is the LA Rams. So that brings us to the end of our show content before we get into our staples like betting locks of the week, which I believe last week less than optimal as a show. What do we have on that one, Kamen?
Yeah, 1-2 for both of us, but that's okay. I think it's going to be a big week this week, Tom. Unlike you, I take the optimistic approach, not the pessimistic approach. It's like, we didn't do great. We're going to do great next week. So we did have a bye last week, so some of these picks are from a few weeks back. So if these games sound like they're old, well, they are. You know, we do a weekly show, and we missed a show last week because of bronchitis Casselman over there. Glad you're feeling better. I've had bronchitis. It is no fun. No fun at all. So I had TJ Watt over 4.5 tackles. He had 5 tackles. So that one hit. That was the Thursday night game a couple weeks ago against the Patriots. It was supposed to be a historic low under, and it hit over in the first half. In the second half, it was all about defense. Bailey Zappi zapped the Steelers, but TJ Watt found enough of an impact, because he always does. The best defensive player in football, possibly the most underrated athlete in the world at the moment, TJ Watt. I don't want to hear any of this Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett garbage. TJ Watt is the best player in the NFL on defense. I'm not going to say it's not close, because it is, because Myles Garrett is great, but there's no debate to me. If you think Watt's not the best, you're lost. Enough said. Case closed. About to be the first guy ever to lead the league in sacks 3 times. Never happened in the history of the NFL. TJ Watt, even better than JJ. I'll put it out there. Even better than JJ. So that's the one I hit. The rest were a disaster. I had the Texans minus 3.5 in the against the Jets. I didn't really realize how many injuries they had. I mean, I did, but there was a couple guys that, wasn't sure who will play, who won't play. They didn't play. They were hampered by the injuries. The Jets winning 30-6. That was what was shocking. The Jets put up 30 points. I mean, even with the injuries, I thought CJ Stroud alone would find a way to win that game. Did not happen, Tom. Never, ever, 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 ever am I betting on the Packers ever again, because they were coming off a win against the Chiefs. The Giants, quite frankly, you could talk about Tommy's cutlets all you want. They stink. He's not great. He had the best game of his life, a game he'll never have again. But the Giants beat the Packers. Packers was minus 6.5, 5.5, whatever it closed. Did miss that one. A 1-2 week. You were also 1-2. Kind of like me, you did have some, like the Eagles game, +3 against the Cowboys, 33-13. Eagles didn't score a single offensive touchdown. Jalen Carter, the only touchdown in the end zone for Philly. You did miss the Falcons minus 1.5 over the Bucks. The Bucks winning 29-25. You will see in my picks for this week. I've bet on the Falcons a couple times this year. I've never won. I have a new strategy. Always bet against Atlanta, baby. That is the play, Tom. Could not cover against the Panthers this last week. You kidding me, Falcons? Embarrassing. And then you had Bengals minus 1.5 over the Colts. That was correct. The Bengals winning 34-14. Cincinnati.
All right. So for my picks this week, I'm only going to be going with one spread. Really, it's kind of sort of half a spread, because give me the Buffalo Bills -7 on the first half line against the LA Chargers. Easton Stick looked absolutely terrible against a mid at best Raiders defense. Bills a considerably better team on both sides of the football. Keenan Allen still has not practiced this week, so The receiving core is going to be much diminished for the Chargers, and Austin Eckler has not looked outstanding throughout the season. So I think the Bills are, if they really have figured something out, they got to. I think this is actually a pretty significant test because they've had the two big games they had to get up for. Can they keep their foot on the pedal against a team that, by all rights, should not be really competitive in this game? The overall game line is 12.5. That I also could completely understand people taking them a little bit worried about backdoor cover type of thing, but
I'll be taking it.
New head coach, little with the interim title, little bit of extra time because it was a Thursday night game into Saturday night. You have a little bit of extra time to get prepped, but the Chargers are absolutely in disarray. Give me the Bills -7 in the first half. Let's go Dolphins Cowboys for the next one. The line +1. So if you want to take the Cowboys with that on my pick, I completely understand that, but I admit this could go either way. The one thing that I do see happening is the over hitting. It's 50 points is the over under. And I know that's a bit of a high number, 25 points per team type of thing, but both teams are pretty capable of hitting that, especially if Tyreek Hill is in the game. I know the Cowboys with Stephen Gilmore, he's been really good at corner for the Cowboys this season. Tyreek Hill. Okay.
Go with the over, Tom.
I'm going to scrap this one. I'm just going to go Dallas +1 now that I'm thinking on it.
Oh, you just lost yourself a win. You turned the W to an L, baby.
You think so? All right.
I think so.
I'll stick.
What do I know? I'm 50-50, Tom. You know that.
Whenever I flip this sort of pick, it always comes back to bite me. Let's have some courage with our convictions here.
Yes.
Cowboys, Dolphins, over 50 points. And then
is that 50 on the dot? So 50 is a
50
wash.
On the dot. So I could get a push.
Okay.
That's a little bit extra, And then I'm going to go with something that ties into my Dynasty Fantasy Football Playoff. As I got the upset last week, I'm now going up against the 2 seed for a shot at the championship. Could use some help from T. Higgins, though, with Jamar Chase out. His over receiving yards prop is 57.5 yards, which he hit last week. I believe. I know he got the 2 touchdowns. I actually don't know if he got over 57.
That one catch he made was insane.
It was absolutely incredible. But Jake Browning without Jamar Chase kind of being that top guy to get the ball. Definitely a lot of receiving yards to go around. And Browning's been playing passably enough, even though it's a tough matchup against Pittsburgh.
He's been playing good.
Give me T. Higgins over 57.5 receiving yards. And helping punch my ticket to a Dynasty Fantasy Football Championship. You're one of the league, so just hoping.
Yeah, you'll probably win our league as well, Mr. Casselman, the football.
I got a matchup against Allie this week. I'm worried.
She's tough. But I drafted most of her team. I did a better job of drafting her team than my own. But there you go. Although she was very adamant she wanted Josh Allen. And I know there's been some ups and downs, but fantasy-wise, Josh Allen has been the number 1 player.
Those
especially in our
interceptions don't hurt as much in fantasy as they do in real life.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Well, I'm going to agree with the Buffalo Bill one. I found it at -12, Tom, for the full game line. So I'm going to go with the full game line. I'm not even worried about backdoor covers personally because I think they're going to be up, maybe 3 touchdowns. I think they win by 20, 21. If there's a backdoor cover, it's going to be like to get it to 13, 14. And I don't even think that's going to be the case. I think the Bills might win this game something like 35-7 or something. It's going to be really, really ugly. I mean, Buffalo just beat Dallas 31-10. The Chargers lost 63-21 to the Raiders, but it was 49-7.
It wasn't even that close.
The Charger touchdowns were garbage time touchdowns, which I was very thankful for because they helped me hit the live over on the game. So thank you for that garbage time. I definitely used it on the betting front. But, I mean, Justin Herbert out for the season. Bills are turning it around. Defense, offense. The offensive coordinator, Joe Brady's doing great. Josh Allen didn't even have a turnover this last game. The now better Cook brother, the Dallas or the Buffalo version, is out there balling. So Buffalo should win this game 3-4 touchdowns. I normally hate lines that are double-digit lines because they scare me. It's the whole backdoor cover. It's the whole like, well, what if this team just doesn't show up at all? But I feel, and again, it's Buffalo, which they do that sometimes. But I think they're extra focused right now, and I think the gap in talent is so big in this game. And I think the, like you said, disarray. I mean, I guess the Chargers can't do worse than Staley, can they? Maybe, I don't know. But that first game is always tough. So Buffalo should win big. Of all my picks, Tom, this is the one I feel the best about. I'm not going to say mortgage, but I feel really good about it. Minus 12 against the Chargers. So I said that I'm going to stick with the theme, bet against Atlanta, because why not? Atlanta's terrible. They don't have a quarterback. I mean, Drew Lock, if Seattle doesn't want to start him, go to Atlanta, Drew Lock. I know Justin Fields is rumored there, but all these guys could be better than Desmond Ridder. Talk about a guy that just isn't it, man. I mean, he's not even the best quarterback on his team. Taylor Heineke is better. But I like the Colts +1 at the Falcons. I think the AFC South, the division everyone said it was going to be bad. The Colts are 8-6. The Jaguars 8-6. The Texans are 8-6. All this talk about Jacksonville. They won a playoff game last year. They were doing all this stuff, all these wins. And Houston with CJ Stroud, this star rookie, all this talk. In the Indianapolis Colts with the stash, Minshew. They are doing really, really good. They're 8-6. They just clobbered Pittsburgh. That was one that actually I would have picked for locks of the week this last week, but we didn't have a show. That's how it works out, Tom. Did win a lot of money on that one. So I'm looking at what the Colts are doing. We were talking about the Rams. Maybe I should have mentioned the Colts. I just don't know if I trust them in that AFC to make a run, but they've won 5 of the last 6 games, Tom, all of them by 3 or more. They beat the Steelers 30-13. Falcons with back-to-back losses, including a loss to the previously 1-win Carolina Panthers. 2 teams in opposite directions in this game. The Colts, by the way, are 5-2 on the road. They like those road games. So Indianapolis +1 at the Falcons. This line actually shifted. It was Colts -1. Now it's Colts +1. Go ahead and give yourself some extra juice. Just bet the Colts money line. They're going to win. They'll take care of business. Give me Indy over Atlanta. And then lastly, Tom, a lot of folks are saying, like you were saying, maybe the Ravens beat the Niners. This ought to be close. I'm going to say it's not going to be close. Give me the 49ers -5 over the Ravens. 6 straight wins by 12 or more points for San Fran. 31, 13, 18, 23, 12, and 16. All these guys do is win, and they win by double digits. 31-point win over the Jaguars. 23-point win over the Eagles. What does that tell me? When they face a big team, a big matchup, these dudes are locked in. Much more explosive passing game than the Ravens, as I said earlier. It'll be on display in this game. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey. Niners win by 6 or more.
All right. Looking forward to a lot of locks this week, especially that Bills one. I got a cough comment. Take us to the next segment.
All right. We'll do a trivia real quick. We do have enough time to get it in. I know I've got to go to work here shortly, but it's an awesome trivia question that's going to be, you can save yours if you have one. I'll do mine for you. So recently, Stephen Curry was 0 for 8 on threes on Sunday against the Blazers, ending his streak of 268 straight games made with the three. That is the longest streak in the history of the NBA. The second longest streak was 157, also by Curry, by the way.
Oh, my God.
So I want you to name the other 3 guys that have the longest streaks. One of them is still active. I do actually have written down in my notes, and I didn't do this. So one of them is an active player. While you're thinking, I'll go ahead and double check to see if that streak is in fact going, because I put this together on Monday. So I'm guessing that it is. But the 3 guys with the longest streaks, I'll go ahead and give you the games. The third longest is 127. The fourth longest is 102 and counting, probably 103. I'll double check. And then 99 is the third one. One of these guys
Wow.
you're absolutely never going to guess. Just, I'm going to give you some clues. You'll get there eventually. But without clues, you're going to have no chance. The number 5 guy, not a chance you get. The 3 and
Okay.
4 guy, you probably should get.
So the obvious ones: Ray Allen,
Not Ray Allen.
Reggie Miller.
Not Reggie Miller.
Let's see. Maybe Ben Gordon.
Ooh, Eric Gordon for the Bulls. Not Ben Gordon.
Not Ben.
So one of them is active.
One of them is active. Okay, active.
The guy who's fourth,
I mean,
longest
a
streak.
lot of guys hit 3-pointers. Damian Lillard, maybe.
Damian Lillard. So I'm looking this up right now just to clarify, because he had 102 as of Sunday or Monday. I think Monday I was looking at. So let me pull up his game log. So he had, Tuesday he had a game. He made 7 threes, so it's 103 now.
All right, so got the active player. So
he's the fourth guy. So you need the third spot and the fifth spot. I'll give you a clue about
Jason Kidd.
Not Jason Kidd. A clue about the third guy. Very like role player, either like barely a starter or a 6th guy off the bench.
Kyle Korver?
What'd you say?
Kyle Korver?
Yes, particularly known for his threes.
Yeah, so Kyle Korver. So then the last guy.
Third. The last guy is very similar to Kyle Korver. Role player. He's not as efficient from threes, though. Like, I mean, he can make threes, but he's never considered one of the best 3-point shooters. Like,
would it be somebody like a Dirk Nowitzki, maybe?
No, it's a NBA 6th man of the year.
Manu Ginobili.
Not Ginobili.
Jamal Crawford?
I believe this guy is a 0-time All-Star. I'm going to confirm right now. There's a clue I can give you right now that would give it away, so I'm trying not to go there yet.
Okay, so a 6-man type of player.
0-time All-Star.
But hit threes on a somewhat.
His career average is actually pretty good, though.
Would it be somebody like a Detlef Schrempf? I'm going back to the 90s on this one.
No, 16.6 points per game is his career. Also an active player.
Oh, he's active. Oh, okay.
This guy's active too. His streak is not going on right now.
Right.
But he did it within the last, I think it was like 5 years ago, whenever his streak was. I read the article. It's been broken since.
Never been an all-star. But puts up like 16 points a game.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew Wiggins was an all-star, so it wouldn't be him.
Nope.
I'll
give you a clue. This one might give it away, but maybe not.
Yeah. Well, is it a big or a little?
It's a little. It's a small guy.
Okay, small
shooting
guy.
Guard.
Shooting guard, 16 points per game.
A little. I think he's more of a shooting guard. I think he's played point in spurts, but I'll consider him.
So maybe like a combo guard. Okay.
A shooting guard. I know his page right now lists him as shooting guard, point guard, but I've never thought of this guy as a point guard. I'll say that.
Is Lou Williams still in the league?
Not Lou Williams. So this guy has played with 2 of the all-time great players in the history of the NBA.
All right. So in this era, that would be LeBron James.
That is one of them.
Knowing you, it's probably Stephen Curry. So who's played with
not
James?
Stephen Curry.
Oh, not Stephen Curry.
It's a guy that maybe. It's not that I don't like him. I actually, in some ways, like him and respect him a lot. But he's a guy that, a little bit overhyped when it comes to the all-time greats.
So Kevin Durant?
Not Kevin Durant.
Not Kevin Durant. Well, I'm saying like Kevin Durant's the guy that you're talking about, not the guy on the list.
No, it's not. It's not a teammate with Kevin Durant.
But was it okay? So let me just.
We're talking all-time great player.
So somebody who played with LeBron James. I'm just going to fixate on that one.
Like he didn't play like teammates with LeBron, but he was in LeBron's era. Very often compared to LeBron and a certain other guy. Now, this just to clarify, this is the teammate of the 3-point shooter.
Yeah, no, I'm going to need another hint.
Okay, so, all right. I'm trying to think. because there's one that I want to give you, but that's going to give it away.
Mm,
And there's a second one that would give it away. He's played in the Eastern and Western Conference.
that doesn't help. That's still the whole league.
Um,
Huh.
well, I'll give you the teammate. Maybe this will help you. This
Okay.
may give it away.
Sure.
He played with Kobe and LeBron.
And he's still in the league?
Still in the league. He's pretty solid. But he's a guy that comes off the bench and starts jacking up shots, I guess. That's the best way to describe him.
Oh no, not Nick Young.
Not Nick Young.
Because he didn't play with LeBron. I don't know. I'm going to tap out on this one.
All right, hold on 1 second. I want to give you one or two real quick clues.
Sure.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, like that's what I'm saying. His career 3-point percentage is 34%. It's just crazy that he'd be on this list.
Yeah.
Well, he went to Mizzou for one.
Oh, is it Jordan Clarkson?
Yes. That was the clue that would
I
give it away.
forgot that he played. Yeah, I forgot that. Yeah, he was a young guy with Kobe, and then he was in Cleveland for a little bit with LeBron.
Yeah.
Wow. Impressive. Statements of the week. Kamen, I'll let you get the ball rolling with this one real quick.
Yeah. So my statement of the week is sometimes, Tom, enough is enough. Sometimes you just got to cut a man loose, literally cut a football player that is causing fans like myself a lot of detriment, a lot of heartache, and could cost you a Super Bowl. And I'm talking about Kadarius Toney and the Kansas City Chiefs. They got to cut him. We had it on the docket last week. We didn't have a show. There was no bye week. We didn't talk about the offsides. Believe it or not, Tom, I was all right with the call because it was so blatant. He was so far offsides. There's debates on either side, but I don't blame the refs for that game, even as a Kansas City fan.
Mm-hmm.
I blame Kadarius Toney because if he would simply line up on side, it wouldn't even be an issue. That is at least the second game he's cost Kansas City himself. The Detroit Lion game, a bunch of drops. Pick six that goes the other way. If Toney doesn't have those two plays, we might be talking about a Kansas City team that's first in the AFC, a team that Mahomes could have even better numbers, a couple more touchdowns. He would be the MVP, which is crazy to think about. Kadarius Toney is literally costing the Chiefs the 1 seed and the MVP for Patrick Mahomes. It's not that he's not doing enough good stuff to warrant these mistakes. He has 169 receiving yards this whole season. 169. I get it if it's a guy like, believe it or not, Tyreek Hill is up there among drops in the NFL. Terrell Owens when he played. He got a lot of drops, Tom. If you have enough good plays to cancel out the drops, who cares? He doesn't have enough good plays.
Mm-hmm.
The Patriots-Chiefs game this weekend, I don't know if you caught the interception Mahomes threw. It was right in Toney's hands. It's not like the MVS played against the Eagles. That was a bad drop, but he's running, full speed. It's wet. He's reaching over his shoulder. I mean, it was a drop, but it wasn't an easy catch. The one Kadarius Toney dropped against the Lions, the one Kadarius Toney dropped against the Patriots, right in his hands, gets tipped in the air. That's 2 more interceptions to Patty's stats, Tom. He's breaking my stats. They got to get rid of Kadarius Toney. Now, there's been a lot of mistakes for the receivers this year in Kansas City. Despite that, Tom, Mahomes is still 4th in the NFL in passing yards.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to get rid of the guys that are costing you games. And I don't want that to be a playoff story where Kadarius Toney drops a ball and it goes for a pick six the other way, and Kansas City loses in the playoffs because of him. I know Kansas City is, backing its players. They have that team culture. We'll pick you up. Let's keep going, blah, blah, blah. At this point, I don't want to say, because he's not the only guy making drops, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Even Rashee Rice, who is, their top receiver, gets a lot of drops. It's a whole team issue, but he's the guy that's made the most egregious mistakes. And you got to make that statement. We're not putting up with this. Get rid of Kadarius Toney. I don't care what the contract is. I don't care about the contract Casselman money. I've had enough of Kadarius Toney. Bye, Kadarius. I wish him all the best luck the rest of his life. I never wish ill upon anyone. But as a Chiefs fan, I don't want him out there on that football field because it is hurting the Chiefs more than it's helping them.
Well, I mean, how quickly things change. Kadarius Toney was a key piece to the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl last year
Punt return
against the Eagles. Punt return also had one of those motion backs, touchdowns. So I don't know, there might be a redemptive story here for Kadarius Toney. Really quickly, another thing that we would have touched on last week is I guess like a statement I would say is great job, LA Dodgers.
Yeah, Ohtani.
Coming up with the contract that they did to sign Shohei Ohtani. It is a 10-year, $700 million contract, but only going to be $20 million paid out over the 10-year life of the contract. The rest of that $680 million is deferred money. So in like today's dollars, it's about 460 to $480 million in today dollars. As there is no interest on the deferred money either. I mean, really creative way. I believe Ohtani came to the Dodgers with this proposal. And really, that just means he really wanted to be an LA Dodger because he wants to win. And I applaud him for coming up with a creative way to do that. I applaud the Dodgers for being open-minded and finding a little bit of a loophole, a little bit of a workaround on that tax system, the luxury tax system that Major League Baseball has in play. And I know a lot of folks are going to gripe about it. I'm sure the MLB owners are going to try to kind of close up that loophole the same way that they closed up the loophole on paying prospects or paying draft picks a big signing bonus to get them on your team, paying international players a bunch to get them in your organization. Major League Baseball just likes to find ways to not have to force their other owners to spend money. Great job on the Dodgers for actually going for it, for actually trying to win. Despite being one of the best teams in baseball over the past decade, they realize we want to win World Series, plural. And even though Ohtani is going to be out as a pitcher this upcoming season, he will be available as a designated hitter, and then we'll come back to pitch after that.
He's a top 5 hitter, if not number 1 or 2, counting all the home runs. So even
if you
take away the pitching, he is probably – it's hard because I think like a healthy Judge, a healthy Ohtani, a healthy Trout, a healthy Acuna Jr., maybe throw in Mookie Betts as well. Sure. I don't think that much separates those guys in terms of who the best is. I think Ohtani separates himself because of the pitching. But even if we take the pitching out of it, he's actually a solid average hitter. He's actually a pretty good base runner. He's got 0 weaknesses, and he is, without question, a top 5 most valuable hitter, if not number 1, Tom. So even without the pitching, he's worth it. So real quick, again, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I agree that it's great for the Dodgers. It's great for him. And most importantly, it's great for baseball because we are going to see Ohtani in the playoffs, something we've all wanted to see.
Exactly. So that'll wrap up our show for this week. Merry Christmas to all of those who celebrate. Happy Hanukkah to those who celebrated earlier in the month of December. And Happy Kwanzaa for whatever you're celebrating in this winter time of year. Wishing a lot of peace and love to all around. And I believe we'll have one show next week between the Christmas and New Year holiday for ringing in the New Year. So that'll be a good, fun show to look forward to as well.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you, Tom, and Happy Holidays, Merry Holidays, like you said, whatever is celebrated to all the watchers, viewers, listeners. Love, having you guys tune into the show. This is such a fun part of my week, Tom. Thank you for doing this with me this year, and looking forward to plenty more shows. Have a great day, Tom, and have a great happy holidays for you. I know I'll actually see you over the holidays, which is good.
Yes, we will.
We haven't seen each other in person in a while, but looking forward to it, and we'll see you guys on the air next week.